ISO 9001-2015 QMS processes. This short video will aid process owners, authors, and reviewers when creating, revising, and/or approving quality management system processes. It will also aid document management and configuration management personnel when reviewing QMS processes, and it will aid process evaluators when reviewing process performance, effectiveness, and conformity. As seen in earlier videos, the definition of process is activities using resources in order to enable transformation of inputs into value-added outputs. A process differs from a procedure in that the procedure is a specified way of performing an activity or the process. One thing to note, while not specifically required by ISO 9001, procedures may be established to ensure consistency and standardization. Keep in mind, once established, procedures must conform to the documented information requirements in the ISO standard, Clause 7.5. As discussed in previous videos, the PDCA cycle, Plan, Do, Check, and Act, is used in the process approach. By using the PDCA cycle, we can also incorporate opportunities and risks. A process can be in any format and any medium. This can be on paper, computer screen, audio, visual, or both. A process may be interactive, dynamic, or static. A process must include adequate identification and description, review and approval for suitability and adequacy. It must be available where and when needed. It must have adequate internal controls, and it must be protected, stored, and preserved. A process must include a process objective, which is also known as the intended results. A process requires inputs and expected outputs. A process must have operation and control criteria, as well as mechanisms for monitoring, measuring, and establishing performance indicators. And a process must include the responsibilities and authorities. A process must identify resources, and where concerning human resources, it must also identify the competencies required in performing the work. The organization should address risks and opportunities related to the process and improve the process. The process must also include an evaluation of the objective or intended results. When evaluating the objective, the ISO standard requires the competency of the persons performing the work to be evaluated, proper adequate controls are present and effective, performance and effectiveness is reviewed, as well as internal audit evaluating the implementation, maintenance, and conformity of the process, and lastly, the performance and conformity of the process is evaluated during the required management review. One way of ensuring that a process has the required elements is by using the SIPOC diagram. The SIPOC diagram identifies the sources of inputs, the inputs themselves, the process activities, outputs, and the receivers of the outputs. It also facilitates the identification and treatment of risks and opportunities. Using the PDCA cycle, we are also able to make required changes to the process and identify improvement opportunities. The SIPOC also offers internal controls. These may also be known as internal gates, required by the ISO standard. These are different from audits. By the time an audit of the process is conducted, the work has already been completed. The process must have internal controls. Another tool used to identify and ensure incorporation of the requirements in a process is the turtle diagram. The turtle diagram illustrates the process by identifying inputs and outputs, the resources needed, the methods and documented information needed. It includes mechanisms for extracting performance indicators and metrics. It also facilitates the identification and treatment of risks and opportunities. When used with the PDCA cycle, the process can be changed as needed to fit business needs or identify areas of opportunity. The turtle diagram also includes the internal check, as discussed earlier, also known as a gate or verification and validation of the process outputs. ISO 9001-2015 requires adequate planning of process changes. The standard requires that changes be planned, be carried out by the plan, meet process requirements, be adequately communicated to the relevant parties, and ensure continuing conformity and integrity to the quality management system during times of process change. I hope this short video will benefit you in understanding the requirements of ISO 9001-2015 Quality Management System processes.